Okay, so we're going to be creating extrudes. There's multiple ways of creating extrudes. So our 3D modeling menu in our tool set here, it's got the little 3D shapes. If I look, I can see there's lots of little 3D shapes and tools to do so. So right now I am in a 3D view. I can see my background is a light green. I can see up in my view menu, I'm at a custom view. If I go to top plan view, I can, right now, here's my object, I'll just delete it. If, say for instance, I wanted to create my rectangle, and here's a rectangle. It says in my object info palette it's a rectangle. If I go into a 3D view, so hit Control and the 3D or the scroll wheel, I can see my my rectangle. It is just a rectangle. Now, what happens when I went into my 3D view? Right now, my rectangle tool, this is my basic 2D tool palette. My rectangle tool, there's 4 mode menus. If I go into my 3D view, I can see that it adds this automatic push-pull mode. So I drew this rectangle. I haven't done anything. And now in a 3D view, if I hover over this rectangle, I can see that it goes red and my cursor changes to that white arrow. Basically, it has this automatic push-pull function. If I'm in 3D view, I can, once I've created this rectangle, before I do anything else, I can also just automatically go and push and pull this face up. Wow. So I can tab in and I can specify a specific distance. I can just click and drag it up. I can snap it to an endpoint or another point of reference. Right now, I will just click and create my shape. So now in my object info palette, it does say extrude. It has my change in X, my change in Y, and my extrude value or height. Well, basically, it's a because our extrudes could go sideways, they could go front, back. It's basically not a height value, but a distance that you're extruding that shape. So here is my little shape. When I have a shape, I can apply it, or a 3D object, I can apply a texture to it. I can go, so for instance, I'll go into my render menu, and I will do a texture. Let's do some brick. There's a brick block. Now it's not visible because I haven't rendered it. So right now I'm going to just quickly render it with OpenGL. So Command Shift G, and there's my brick. It's just the scale of it. It's a huge block compared to a very small brick. Okay, so I can easily change the scale here and rotation. I'll get into that another day. But right now, here's my block.
Wait,
now,
what's the short command for rendering?
Command Shift G takes you, does OpenGL. Yeah. Now, what I want to do, I want to make this a more complex shape. So right now, it is just a basic extrude. So I've taken my one shape and I've just done one extrude to it. I can, in my rectangle tool again, I still have this push pull. I can draw on my shape. I'm gonna just draw. There's a new rectangle. Now I can just push pull this up. I haven't pressed anything. Right now there's another extrude. They are 2 separate extrudes. So for instance, I can grab this and move it over. They're not attached. Okay. So if I want to attach them, if I want to make them one solid object, I can select both objects. I can go up to my model menu and I can select add solids or option command A. And now I have this one object. I can move it around. I can see up in my object info palette, it's a solid addition. Okay, so it's 2 solids and together they made an addition. Now, if I want to edit any part of this solid addition, I have to go into the addition to edit the parts of the addition. So double clicking on my solid addition takes me into this edit solid addition, and I can see here are my two original parts. So I can even move this part over off of my original solid, exit my solid addition. It still keeps those two pieces together, okay? Sorry? Interesting. So that's a solid addition. I can also do a solid subtraction. So for instance, I want to make a circle, and I'll go out like this, and I will go totally put a hole in it. Right now, they are two separate extrudes, right? So, and one has a texture and one doesn't, and it's going, I want to show my texture, and I want to show my texture. So that's why it gets that funny look. So if I don't do anything, it's just that they're on the same plane, and that's what's going on there. So there is a cylinder, it's within my rectangle, and right now they are two separate objects. So I'm going to select both of them, and I will go up to my model and I will subtract solids. Now I can retain my subtracting objects or not, and then, or I can select, see how there's different objects highlighted in red. So this is the selected object, the frontmost selected object to subtract from. So I want to subtract from this shape, so I can hit OK. And now I have my solid subtraction. Now if I go in, double click, here's my solid subtraction. If I double click on my solid addition, now I can edit this, and I actually want this to be there. And so now I have this kind of complex shape. Okay, so you can have within one object, it can be made up of multiple different objects. Those objects can be additions, they can be subtractions. There's different ways of doing things. Now, this is all these solid additions and subtractions I've done through the model menu. I can also intersect solids and section solids. I won't get into that right this second. Right. So this was all by using, I'm going to get rid of this little shape. This was all just by using our regular 2D tools and then using that automatic push-pull. Okay, so there I did it again. You have to do it right away. So for instance, if I go and I draw one rectangle and I draw another rectangle, I can see the difference. This has this red highlighted with the white arrow. This means I can automatically push-pull this one. I can't automatically push-pull this because I've done another operation since I created it. Now, if, for instance, I do want to actually extrude this first rectangle, I can use the push-pull tool. So this time I have to select it and go Shift-R, and now I can automatically do that. Or with my shape selected, I can go up to my model menu and I can use the extrude command or Command E. So if I go Command E, I can type in an extrusion value of 10 feet. This is a huge scale. So there is my little, let's make this a little bigger. There's another way of creating a solid. So I can create my shape, I can create any shape, and I can then go Command E and add an extrusion value. I can also use the push-pull tool, or I can use the automatic push-pull tool in the 2D tool set when I'm in a 3D view. Now, there's also another way of adding and subtracting solids without going into our model menu. So for instance, if I wanted to add a shape, I can see that as I hover over this face of this shape, it goes blue. And now what's happening, if I could go to this corner, if I hover over this face first, it's going to draw my rectangle down, for instance. If I wanted it to be on this face, then I'm going to select or hover over this face first. It's blue. Then I can go to this corner and it's going to draw on that face. I could go on this face and I hover over, and I can see as I rotate around this snapping point, if I want to draw it on this face, I just make sure that that face is highlighted blue. Now, if it doesn't do that, what we have to make sure is we have these plane settings. So we can do it on the layer plane. If I do it on my layer plane, it's always going to create this shape on the bottom. You can kind of see as I do so, this line is on the bottom. So there's my shape. I can still automatically pull it up, but it goes from the layer elevation. So that first shape was created from that layer, that any shapes, if it's set on layer plane up here, it's going to use that plane for its starting point. So if it doesn't draw on a face that you want, then you need to make sure you go in and you set up the automatic plane, and then I can see that I can choose any plane of an object and select draw off of that. Now again, when I created that, it was still a separate object. This time I'm going to create this extrude. I draw my square, I hover over, it's red, I have this white arrow, I click to pull it up. As I'm pulling up, before I click and set that height, I want to press my Option key. And now what it's done is it's automatically added that second extrude to that first extrude. And I can see up in my object info palette, it says solid addition. Okay, so that works the same way for subtractions. I just go in the opposite direction. So for instance, if I wanted to take this one down, I'm going to pull it down. If I don't press the Option key, it's just going to create that extrude. See, it says up in my object info palette, extrude. And it's just located within that other extrude. So I need to make sure that if I want to add or subtract, I pull down, and before I click to set the extrude, I press Option, and now I've subtracted that shape. Okay? Interesting, very interesting. So we don't have much time left, but if you guys want to try all those different methods for creating extrudes,